I've just come from a meeting with state, federal, local officials, every single one of us concerned deeply about the spillage from Enbridge. Here is what I saw when we just flew over the Kalamazoo River and the creek. There needs to be a lot more done, a lot more skimmers, a lot more boom. There is not enough resources right now on the river to contain the spill to the level that we would feel comfortable. And I think it's safe to say that we are all deeply concerned about the spill and the weather systems moving the oil into Morrow Lake. The U.S. EPA is here. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is here. Lisa Williams is here from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We just met with the EPA as well, and the CEO of Enbridge and the representative from the EPA are, we hope, going up right now to go out to see where the end of that oil is, which is too close for comfort to Morrow Lake from my point of view, and from the point of view of Captain Sands, who is also up in the helicopter with us. The bottom line is that we are asking the Environmental Protection Agency to do everything possible to get additional resources here to prevent the oil from spilling. We are very concerned about citizens being on this river, drinking the water. We are concerned about the habitat and the wildlife. There is a toll-free number that we are asking citizens to call, whether they experience health effects or whether if they see any wildlife that may be in distress. We're asking citizens to call the toll-free number, and we will have professionals, the U.S. Wildlife Service, will have professionals come and take care of the wildlife that may be affected by the oil. That toll-free number is 1-800-306-6837. It's 1-800-306-6837. That's the number to call if you're experiencing health effects or if you see wildlife that has been contaminated by crude oil. I believe this will take a good while to clean up based upon what we saw. The good news is that the pipeline has been capped, if you will. But the last thing any of us want to see is a smaller version of what has happened in the Gulf happen in our water system, in the Great Lakes waters, anywhere approaching the Lake Michigan. So we have got to stop the spread of the crude right now. And that's exactly what we have asked Enbridge as well as the EPA to step forward and do. The EPA representative got here today. Lisa, I don't know if you've been here more than today, did you?
EPA was here yesterday.
EPA was here yesterday also. They are very concerned too, and they are using every bit of their authority to get additional help here. But they understand how important it is. There is probably some concern about having the Emergency Operations Center here rather than closer to the site, and so we're going to be taking care of that as well, hopefully, and identifying a better site for the Emergency Operations Center to be located. Did I miss anything? Anybody want to add anything? Come down. You got to come to the mic.
We're getting a lot of calls from. I am Greg Danifel. I'm with the DNRE in the Kalamazoo office. And one thing we're getting is a lot of calls from folks downstream, Allegan, Kalamazoo County, wondering how this is going to affect their communities. And we're going to be doing some monitoring in the river to evaluate whether this stuff is migrating downstream, in unseen concentrations, where we can't see the oil, we're still seeing dissolved concentrations. So we're going to be taking care of that too.
Questions, yeah.
Any word on safety issues, incident records, reports from the EPA or from the state about whether Enbridge has properly maintained the site? Do you think
I don't know that. Does anybody have any information about that?
No, the MS.
Right. The state agencies do not have a role in that inspection process. Right now, there is an investigation being conducted by the NSTV, National
Department of Transportation.
board. And they will be obviously looking into all those issues of when the last inspections. We're told it was last inspection was in 2009 of that entire pipeline from Indiana all the way up into Canada.
And that pipeline, if you just, where does the pipeline start and end?
Starts in, my understanding is it starts in Indiana and ends up in Sarnia.
Governor, we've heard this characterized as one of the worst environmental disasters in the Midwest ever. You've got to look at it. What are your thoughts?
I think it's, I don't know what other environmental disasters have ever happened in the Midwest, but clearly this is a significant incident, and it cannot be taken lightly. We have to have all hands on deck. We have to prevent the spread of this crude. We want to send out the alarms to those who have access to resources to be able to get additional booms and skimmers here to get the oil off. Now, the containment is the big problem right now. The spread of the oil is all dependent upon weather systems. We're at a flood state or close to a flood stage on the river now. If we do not get containment at near Morrow Lake, then there will be far worse consequences if it breaches.
Governor, when we were in the press briefing at Fort Benteen, we were told by EPA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Emergency Management, and Enbridge that the response was appropriate, effective, efficient, and that they aimed towards overkill.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing the difference?
I disagree with that characterization. And to be fair to U.S. EPA and to U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they have not had the opportunity to go up in a helicopter yet, and that's why I asked Enbridge to take EPA up tonight while there's still light so that they can see. I'm a layperson, but from my perspective, the response has been anemic. And they need to have more. There's miles with nothing. Now, granted, the Kalamazoo River is dense on the shores. There are many places where you cannot access, but there are places where there can be greater presence where you do have access, and we are certainly willing to do whatever it takes to even make some access, force access, if you will. But I would invite Captain Sands to characterize it, or John Wernett, who's my emergency management contact in the governor's office, who also went up with me, to characterize it as well. Just one second. Let me just let him finish responding.
Right. And just so you know who I am, I'm Captain Tom Sands, Commander, Emergency Management Homeland Security Division with the Michigan State Police. We did fly over it. And obviously, I am not an expert. I have been involved in other spill situations before, but I certainly support the governor's concerns here. There definitely was locations where it appeared more resources could be put in place. I have spoken with FEMA Region 5 director expressing concerns, also with the EPA, gathering additional information on what additional resources are coming, because certainly additional resources are needed. Thank you.
We know what are we talking about in terms of more resources? We've already heard about 43,000 feet of boom, 30 vacuum trucks. I mean, what more do we need?
There are miles of this river. I mean, it was at least 12 miles that we went, and there are several spots where there is a response. I don't want to say that there's no response. There is a response in several places. But there are vast stretches where there is no response whatsoever. Some of them, that is impenetrable. I understand that. But there are places where they could absolutely shore up skimmers and booms, and that's what they need to do. Now, they've said that they are getting more in. That's good. They need to get it down at the end, right now, tonight. They need to put their resources on preventing further spreading of the crude, and they need to do it tonight.
How close to Morrow Lake did you see this lake?
We were probably about 4 miles out,
So
I would say.
15 miles we were told before is no longer correct.
Oh, no. Again,
We were told
this
that
is
it advanced
Sheen.
15 miles from the leak down the Kalamazoo River. Is that no longer correct?
It has moved. If from what I saw now, this is sheen on the water, which would be an indication that there's oil there. It's closer to Morrow Lake than was previously reported. Perhaps that's because it's moved, but that's why they need to get booms and skimmers out there tonight.
Any idea how many people have been evacuated?
I think 2 homes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm Jim Rutherford. I'm the health officer with the Calhoun County Health Department. To date, we've only evacuated 2 homes, and that was initially when we were notified of the spill itself. The evacuation of those 2 homes were because of the close proximity to the actual spill site. Subsequent to that, we've done a significant amount of air testing in unison with both Enbridge and the EPA. We're satisfied to date with the results of said air testing. We have relocated approximately 25 individuals that have complained of issues. There's a lot of people that are more vulnerable to some of the toxicity that's being released by the chemicals. Some people with compromised immunity, children with an elderly with asthma and such. So we have relocated them to areas that we've secured in the county.
Governor, do you trust this company? You say it's closer to Morrow Lake now than you were led to believe. You know that BP was not completely candid.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I have a great antenna for, I'll just say this, I have great knowledge that companies will do what they can to protect their reputation, their interests, and their shareholders. They're not going to, I worry that we were undersold in terms of the amount of crude that has been released. This is why I'm grateful that EPA is here, because this has got to be directed by EPA and not by the company. We do not want to see a repeat of what happened in the Gulf.
And then could you say how many fish, fowl, what amount of wildlife is affected by the oil, and how many do you expect to save? How many may die in this catastrophe?
We have reports of several dozen of oiled wildlife, primarily ducks and geese at this point. It's early in the response to know about fish kills. That may become more of an issue as time progresses. The rehabilitation center that's being constructed as we speak will begin to be able to take wildlife in probably sometime during the day tomorrow. And success rates are fairly high for getting birds through rehabilitation centers. And a lot depends on what happens in the next 24 to 48 hours to be able to answer that question more quantitatively.
Anybody else?
Yes. Governor, the spill has reached into Kalamazoo County. Who on your staff is from Kalamazoo County, either the community health or?
Well, we got folks from, who's here from Kalamazoo?
No, I'm not.
Anybody here from
Kalamazoo County Sheriff has been in and has been apprised. He has been up in the helicopter. His staff has been up in the helicopter as well. The Public Health Director,
Linda Bouza, the health officer, has been notified and participated with some joint meetings that we had today. They're basically doing the same thing that we are in terms of we have closed all access from a recreational standpoint of the Kalamazoo River. We've posted approximately 100 signs. It's the Kalamazoo River from the spill site all the way to the west end of the county, west of Bedford Township, is now closed for fishing, for boating, and for swimming, and Kalamazoo County will be following suit. I would anticipate that they would do their posting tomorrow morning, at least to the west end of Morrow Lake. In addition, they did open their emergency operations center earlier today, so they're kind of dealing with what we were dealing with approximately 24 hours ago. Hopefully, it certainly won't be to the significance that we've dealt with in Calhoun County.
That's what we want to prevent. Okay?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, too, that Kalamazoo County's emergency manager has been engaged in this process. Our State Police Emergency Management District Coordinator spoke with him earlier today. We arranged a flight in the State Police helicopter for him to tour and assess the impacts to Kalamazoo County, and they did activate their Emergency Operations Center as well.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks.
Right now, who's running it?
EPA. EPA. It's EPA. Can we huddle for just 1 second, you guys? John?
Yep, right here.